Welcome, everybody, to episode number 4 of LIFEBEAT. Conversations with Purposeful Women. Thank you so much. I am your host, Lizzie. This show is part of Puna Press. Puna Press Live is the channel. Puna Press is a publishing company in San Diego where one of my poetry collection of mine is published. So thank you to Puna Press for hosting us. My book is called The Hospice Bubble and Other Devastating Affirmations. I'll read a poem from it in a second. I'd like to make my personal statement. Black Lives Matter. Science is real. Please wear a mask, wash your hands, and safely social distance. Trans, women's, and LGBTQ rights are human rights. Where I sit right now, I am on Keech or Tonga land. So thank you all for joining us. And now I will read a poem from my book. Here it is. And I'm going to read this one called Lessons. Lessons. There is something to be said for simple, easy laughter. A song you like on the radio. A clear sky. A bright orange sunset. On these nights, when it's quiet and sleep comes without asking, it's important to acknowledge. Because elsewhere, or maybe even here tomorrow, it won't be like this. There's something to be said for difficult, tough conversations, terrible news on the radio, stormy skies, darkness of a starless night. On these nights, when it's too much to take and sleep is nowhere to be found, it's important to acknowledge. Because elsewhere, or maybe even here tomorrow, it won't be like this. All right.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome my guests. I'm going to start with Cathryn Beeks. Wave to us so people know who you are. Cathryn Beeks, listed on her website are the following sections that all describe her many facets. Singer-songwriter, Listen Local founder, mixed media artist, web show host, shopkeeper, event planner, photo crafter, filmmaker, podcaster, calamity, and wife and Anna-mom. I have described her as a maven. She is currently based in Lucerne Valley, California. Find more about her at cathrynbeeks.com. Next, we have KishaLynn Moore Elliott. Hey, KishaLynn. I became aware of KishaLynn when I took part in her event, Say Their Names Live. She is the Director of Special Projects at Monarch School San Diego, although I think she recently was promoted to Vice President of Operations and Evaluation. She's also a recent PMP, which is a project management professional. She's a certified coach, a licensed restorative trainer and facilitator, an activist for racial equality, LGBTQ equality, and education reform. She is also the author of Childish, Stories from the Life of a Young Black Girl. She is based in San Diego. And last but not least, we have Jules Stewart, drummer, percussionist, and part-time graphic designer. She recently quit her day job as a research physical therapist to be a full-time musician. She offers remote recording and drum percussion lessons. Plus, she is in a multitude of San Diego bands. She is based in San Diego, and you can find more about her at julesstewartdrums.com. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for the introduction. I feel so
Good evening. Yeah, that's great. I don't have anything left to say now.
Oh, yes, you do. All right, I'm going to start you off with some lightning round questions, and we'll just go to each of you to give your answer. We'll start with Cathryn. What is something you're great at cooking?
I make excellent taco shells. Frying them, I perfected it, and that is kind of what I'm known for. It's really the only thing that my mom allows me to cook around her, because she's the great cook. So
Corn tortillas?
I'd say taco shell, corn tortillas. Yes, exactly. And with the little, and you've got to fold them and leave enough room so that you can stuff them and make them crispy enough, but not too crispy that they fall apart. So that is my claim to fame in the kitchen.
Awesome. How about you, KishaLynn?
The best thing that I can cook up is a good story. I am not domestic. I am married to a chef, and I who is the identical twin sister of a chef whom I
Ooh,
also live with. So I don't have to cook much
Wow.
of my own devices or design, and that's probably for the best.
all right. Well, that sounds good too. How about
I'm
you,
going to go
Jules?
with stories.
Nice. Um, yeah, I don't know if any of the things that I usually make really count as cooking, because cooking is not like a great passion of mine. But I do make a really good vegetarian burrito. So I have a little bean and vegan cheese based burrito with some avocado and some nice hot sauces, just about every day.
Awesome.
Mhm.
All right, cool. I like it. All right, so let's start with KishaLynn this time. What movie could you rewatch over and over again, and why?
Oh, well, I won't say my favorite movie because my favorite movie is kind of hard to watch. But the movie that I could watch over and over again is What Dreams May Come, featuring the late great Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. Just a beautiful, heart wrenching, thought provoking movie.
I've actually
With a
never
very
seen that
diverse
one.
cast. Oh gosh, you have to check it out. A
Yeah, I
painting
will.
comes to life in this movie. So if you're into visual,
Oh,
it's phenomenal. And although we remember Robin Williams for his stunning comedy, this is a drama, a very emotional drama, and you really just all of them shine in this movie. And it's one that a lot of people haven't seen. So usually I try to throw it out there and spread the word as much as I can,
yeah, cool.
because it's kind of one of those hidden gems, if you will.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. How about you, Jules?
Uh, I could watch Silver Linings Playbook over and over, um, because I think just like the central message gets me every time, and I always need the reminder that every time in the movie they're like pointing the finger at these members of the family that they think have mental disorders, and they're basically put all of the dysfunction of the family on these members of the family, and it ends up that everyone's dysfunctional and everyone contributes, and it just is like a nice reminder that every time you're pointing your finger at someone, it's probably partly on you too. So I really like that movie.
All right, I've seen that one once,
Mm.
so I might have
Good
to
times
revisit that
ahead.
one too. I'm making my list. All right, Cathryn, how about you?
Well, I mean, mine would be the great literary work of The Big Lebowski,
Mm.
Oh,
which I absolutely watch over and over and over again. It's hilarious, and Jeff Bridges is adorable, and it's just one of my favorite movies. One that I could watch again and again.
okay. I think they're doing something tonight on Facebook, like a live reading of it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
I,
I'll have
I
to
think
check
I
it out.
saw that somewhere. All right, and our last question for the lightning round, starting with Jules now. What is your earliest childhood memory?
This is a weird one.
We like weird. It's okay.
You asked. I made up this game that I'm sure was the worst thing a kid could have made up, where I wanted to call out bus stops as I saw them, and whoever called them out first got a point, and nobody was playing but me. So we just yelled bus stop over and over every time we were driving anywhere, and I'm sure it was horrible for my parents, but I remember calling out bus stops.
Why bus stops?
I don't know. I think I like the color of the bus stops in Washington. There, or in, at least where I live, they were like yellow and white, and so they kind of stuck out against like the evergreen. I don't know. I don't know. My poor
Okay,
parents.
we'll take it. Cathryn, how about you?
Honestly, and I've been asked this question before, and it's the very first memory I have is of watching my parents dance in the kitchen. So I must have been strapped to a high
Oh,
chair or something,
Hmm.
and the music playing and them dancing, and that just I can still see it.
Aw.
oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. KishaLynn, how about you?
Probably the earliest memory would be of my mother reading a book to me as a child. My mother is a reader and read a lot to me, and that had a huge benefit on me. The book that I can remember her reading, the very first memory of her reading a book is, I think it's called The Little Red Hen. And it's the book where the little red hen wants to make a pie and goes, "Who will help me with the wheat?" And everyone says, "Not I, not I,
Oh,
not
beautiful.
I." And who will help me crack the eggs and all. They go through this whole thing, and then at the end they say, "Now who will help me eat the pie?" And everyone says, I will." And the little red hen says, "I don't think so." The end. Something to that effect. One of my earliest memories from childhood.
Great. That's
That's a good
awesome.
one, too. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I'm going to get into our individual questions now. I'd like to invite anybody who's watching, if you want to chat, please put it in the chat box. We'll see it and I can pass on the messages if they don't see it. At least let us know you're there watching. That'd be great. Okay, we're going to start with Cathryn. You do so much. I know just recently, I'll just name these three things, is that you produced a video for singer-songwriter Kim Rogers. You currently produce a comedy show that's on YouTube called Looped, and you just released a cookbook
Mhm.
with submissions from musicians and other artists in San Diego. So tell us a little about these projects and whatever else you're currently working on.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I am a self-taught video maker, and I stumble my way through, but I have a certain aesthetic, and some people like it. And so my friend Kim Rogers was one, and she reached out to do a video for her song "Lie," um, which has some political twist to it, but she didn't want it to be totally political, and kind of let me run with that. That was a really fun project. I did an animation thing with that. And Looped is was just something like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. My bandmate and dear friend Nisha Chone is a comedian, and she is constantly cracking me up, and so is my friend Garrison. And so I was like, let's just, you guys send me your funny little video clips and I'll put them all together. And so then I invited a bunch of other women, and we have like, I don't know, 25 contributing funny chicks and female identifying folks that just send little 3-minute videos that just to brighten our day. And I'm kind of looping them together with some music and just putting them out once a month. So that's been a lot of fun to keep me busy and keep me connected with these awesome, funny ladies. And the cookbook was volume 3 every 7 years. So we started this in 2006. We put one out in 2013. And it's I reach out to the local music community, musicians, fans, artists, affiliates of all kinds, and invite them to send a recipe. If they are an artist or a musician, I ask them also to submit a song, a food related poem, picture, photograph, whatever, and then we compile them together. It's digital now, so it's a lot easier. The first 2 were actually
Mm,
printed, and we had CDs run and everything, but now it's all digital, so it's a little bit easier, and it's free this time. I'm giving them away if you subscribe to Listen Local Radio, which is just $2 a month. So that's been a way to kind of be another way to stay in touch with folks, and like a membership drive or a subscription drive, if you will, too. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then I realized after I put out the cookbook that I've been a vegetarian, a pescatarian now for 2.5 years. I haven't eaten meat, just fish. And I really want to make the next cookbook all vegetarian, and get some great recipes and maybe help people get off the meat and onto the plants.
that's great. That's awesome. Um,
Cathryn, you're such a connector. You know so many people, and it just feels like that's such an easy role for you, or it seems like it because you do such a good job of it.
I think it might be my favorite thing. Like I love, pairing people that, oh my gosh, wait till you meet so and so, and then when they get together and then they create something wonderful. That's just like my favorite thing in the world. So it is fun. I love organizing stuff, and so that role has always sat really well in the music community because people just need a little organization or something to do at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I speak for, multitudes in San Diego who can point to you, Cathryn, as like their entryway into the music business or showcases or open mics or, whatever it is. You really do make things happen for people. Even now that you're not in San Diego, you still do it. That's still your community for the most part. So I know that we
For
all
sure.
appreciate it. So you
Thank you.
mentioned it a little bit. Talk about Patreon and what that is and what you put out on there, and maybe we can get you some new subscribers.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Well, Patreon is a platform that allows artists of all mediums to sort of have the folks that support them all in one place and give a monthly donation, if you will, subscription. There's, all you can set your level. There's folks that are donating, $10 a month or the $2, or, they can name their price, and they set it up through PayPal or through their credit card, and it automatically debits them each month. And for an artist, it's like getting a paycheck every month, which is just huge. Right now, it says on my Patreon page that I'm getting $300 a month, which helps me pay for all the subscriptions for the SoundCloud and, the different softwares that I use to do the shows, and just helps me continue working. It is the sole way I'm funded right now. I didn't apply for any of this government assistance when everything hit because I had Patreon, and I felt guilty. I said, I've got this income and I'm just gonna, focus all my energy and attention to these now 50 people who support me each month. And that was another thing. The Patreon kind of helps you focus on the people that are supporting you. I think a lot of times artists get caught up in trying to impress everybody, and it's really hard. And when you're trying to do that, then you're giving less attention to the people who are supporting you and coming to your shows and buying your merchandise and stuff. So now I feel like I can 100% focus on them. And if I get new subscribers, great. Now, they're my best friends now. But I tend to run around less trying to look at me, come over here. I have my people. So Patreon is a neat platform, and it's very inexpensive for what they they just take a small percentage. So it's cool. I love it.
That's great. And if you have a chance, if you can drop the Patreon link in the chat, that would be great. I'll also put it out on Facebook and all the social channels after our conversation, so people can find you there. So you kind of mentioned the pandemic a little bit, so let's talk about that. How have things changed for you with the pandemic?
Well, it coincidentally occurred at a time when we had just uprooted our entire life. Anyway, we left San Diego in September to come up to the high desert to take care of my folks and hang out with them, which we figured would be a sort of a temporary situation, but we didn't know. And we ended up losing my father in December. And I, of course, promised him that I wouldn't leave Mom here alone. It's in a very rural area, middle of the desert. And so we, were looking for places down there that she could also come. She hadn't really decided she was leaving here yet. So we were in a pretty precarious position between, I'd say January and February. Both were kind of like, what are we going to do? So then March hit, and that was our answer. We're staying here. We're going to stay here where it's safe. We'll take care of my mom. We will figure out what we're going to do later, which we decided that we are going to buy some property in rural, very rural, where it's affordable, San Diego County. And my mom is going to sell here, and she's going to move down with us. And we will get 5 acres somewhere out there and put an outdoor performance space up where Johnny, my husband, is an amazing sound engineer and has all the equipment to do big festivals or drive-in concerts, because his work certainly isn't returning anytime soon. And we just want to be back down to where our friends are, our family, our people that support us. And so that's the plan. So life has completely changed, but it already kind of had anyway. So we're just sort of, honestly, we're kind of grateful that we are here, and just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I've told you, but I am so sorry about your dad. I know that was a really hard time for you. So here's to Hartley.
And your dad too, Lizzie.
Thank you. So sorry, I got emotional just
I'm emotional. That's 3 proud dads that are watching down from heaven on us
Oh,
all, and may they rest in peace, and may we live in peace without them.
amen to that. So Cathryn, just one more question, and you sort of touched on it. How is the search going for land and finding your sort of dream property down in San Diego area?
It's kind of slow going. I mean, for a while we were sort of going down there every other weekend and checking out the different areas, and then mid-October, actually the whole month of October, we just kind of were nervous about the election, just nervous about the world, and just kind of didn't go anywhere. And we sort of put the search on hold. Actually, we started looking up here a little bit. We were looking in Landers and Joshua Tree, and figuring out how much more property we could get up here as opposed to down there, and weighing the odds or the options of possibly building this dream up here. But in the end, we decided we want to be back down there where our friends are. And so yeah, we're going to pick it back up. We like the Jacumba area a lot. Some young entrepreneurs just bought the entire town of Jacumba, like Main Street and the spa and all the buildings, and they have this grand plan to turn it into like a very, like, almost an India vibe with camels and big glamping tents and stuff. So that could be kind of cool to be part of a resurgence of a new town. I don't know. We're going to end up out there in the desert somewhere, though.
Well, awesome. I look forward to anything you do because it's always, I mean, just top notch. You know, you are first class all the way. All the events you put on are always just, I mean, they're on time. They're just run magnificently. And with Johnny on there, it's great. You're so good. And I love you so much.
Thanks. I love you. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to KishaLynn. KishaLynn, I don't know you very well. You're still getting to know you through your Facebook posts and everything, but I know I'd like to start with the Say Their Names Live event. That's how I first kind of got involved with with who you are. So if you could talk about that event and why and how you organized it, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, in describing myself now, I have a lot of titles, all of which I love, but probably the newest claimed one is the title of activist. I probably felt a lot more comfortable playing an advocate role as I have, in education and in other spaces throughout my life. But obviously, there was a shift in me this year, and it happened in May, but really I actualized it in June of this year, just in response to the egregious number of extrajudicial murders of just too many Black people by the police. So after the killing of George Floyd, I just decided that I needed to take a stance and to use both my voice and my platforms to a greater extent for good and for change. And so, inspired by an experience that I had in a healing space, a Black sit in that happens virtually every week. And as a part of that sit-in, they do this beautiful calling of names at the beginning. And in my first sit-in, as I was sitting in that calling of names, it overwhelmed me just to hear the names, and it was extremely healing. And I felt like how more people should experience this. So I got an idea to expand the saying of names to really equip people with the information needed to claim space on their social media. And the idea behind Say Their Names Live is exactly what it sounds like. I went and I looked at the databases and I pulled the names of over 2,000 Black people and counting that have been killed by the police in the past 7 years. I published those names on a website and I asked people to take a pledge that on June 19th, they would go live on their social media platform or platforms and just claim space for 10 minutes reading the names of these victims. And I call it a call to healing in action because it really is designed to do both. There, like I had experienced in the Black Sit-in, is something very healing about just taking a moment to lift up the names of the slain. I felt like by saying their names, I could feel a piece of restoration and that their deaths were not in vain. And because going live is a big thing and social media is like the biggest thing, I felt that claiming space like this on social media would amount to a peaceful protest. And that would allow us to heal our pain, but also to demand change, to also take up space. What I knew would happen, or when I looked at the 2,000 names, it was just too overwhelming. And so I decided to break the list down into different groups. So I took a core group of names, and there's a list you could choose if you took the pledge. You could choose to read the names of Black women, Black children, Black people with mental illness. And I specifically felt drawn to read the names of over 300 unarmed Black people who had been killed by the police in the past 7 years. And so giving people choice to claim that space on social media and say those names, I knew what would happen is what happened. People realized 10 minutes is not enough time. All day would not be enough time to read all the names of the lives that have been senselessly lost or to keep up with the lives that continue to be lost until we get the change that we want to see. And so, my goal with Say Their Names Live is to create healing and also to demand change and changes that will bring about the end of police brutality and systemic racism, period. So, after the conclusion of the act, it happened all day on Juneteenth. I've never done anything like this before. I didn't know if people would respond. I set an arbitrary goal of 300 pledges. In 2 weeks, I had over 112 pledges. And starting at midnight on June 19th, all the way through midnight, and my vision was that at any point in time you go on social media, you might scroll through your feed and find someone reading these names. And that's exactly what happens. And I built a community around it as well because so many people, especially white body people in an ally space, are looking for things that will push them beyond just like these performative acts. They really want to dig in. They really want to be a force for change. They want to work with us. They want to collaborate with us. And so I said, well, this just became more than just a flash in the feed social media thing. Let's build a community. Let's keep this going. Let's at the minimum agree to hold this space at least once a year, but as many times as we need to until we see the change that we want to see. And I think that has been the most enriching part of it. I thought I was just going to create a thing. And what I really created was a community, and a community that continues to grieve together, and also a community that continues to heal together and to take solid, tangible actions to change the world and make the world better for those who don't really stand a fighting chance without the support of the people who are not, necessarily being slaughtered in the streets just for the color of their skin.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I did take part in it, and it it was healing. I mean, I remember reading the names, and I remember when I came across a name of somebody that I remembered from San Diego when it happened, Alfred Alongo, and I just broke down crying. I was there was just something about the saying of their name that really just unlocked something, right? And so I really appreciate you putting that together. And I know Cathryn took part in it. Jules, did you do it also? Yeah. So we
Yeah,
really appreciate
we
it.
did it. We did it as a band, Calamity. We all met on Zoom,
That's where I
and
sing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I do
usually the thing
Calamity.
is, our band, everybody is so goofy, and all we do is cut up and act mature. And that day, we all just were in a different place. Like, we all had, everybody had their names, and it was really something to experience.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Of course. I mean, it's not for me. It's for them, and it's for my 4-year-old black son who will be a future black man in the world, and it's for everyone that we know that has an unfair and in many cases unjustified target on their back. Um,
Yeah.
and I just feel very strongly that the majority of these murders are unjustified. Um, you know, Even a homicide should not be our response to crime happening. Mental illness is not a crime at all. And in the instance of the 123 Black children that some people had the emotional fortitude to read the names of, I did not.
Mm.
But you just can't convince me of otherwise, that their lives are the loss of their lives are their fault. It is indicative of a system that has failed them, and a society that has allowed racism to be to be okay, to be swept under the rug, that allows or says that Black lives don't matter, not even matter as much, just don't matter, period. So it's very heartening for me as a Black woman to make a stand, but it's also the most fulfilling, to makes it worth it to take that risk when I look to my left and my right and I see people like you, standing behind me, walking beside me, standing in front of us. That's what we need, because your voices can be heard in a different way. And also, we're tired. We're tired from fighting for our lives and fighting for every breath. And so, by building a community and making sure that allies are safely welcomed and actively engaged in that community, it's going to be, in my viewpoint, the biggest thing that helps to move the needle. We can do this together, because only together can we prove that there are more of us than there are of them.
Absolutely.
Yes. Um, okay, KishaLynn, I'm gonna change subjects a little bit, just because I know you're involved in so many things, so I want to make sure we cover some of it at least. Can you tell us about the Monarch School and what it is and what you do there?
Sure. So I have worked at the Monarch School for going into my 8th year. As you mentioned, yes, I was just promoted to the executive team at Monarch. If you don't know about Monarch, it's a K-12 public school located in San Diego's Barrio Logan community downtown. And we serve, every youth that we serve is impacted by homelessness. And so that's what's special about us. That's what's unique about us. We are the only K-12 public school in the United States that exclusively serves students impacted by homelessness. And so I started my job at Monarch as a director of life skills, bringing my background and experience as a coach to help to build and establish and build life skills programming for our students so that they could go on to be successful after they graduated from high school. That was amazing work. I learned a lot. I went into my job at Monarch feeling like I would be able to relate to these students so much because I myself was experiencing a form of homelessness during my senior year in high school and graduated from high school and went to college. But diving in with this role, it was a completely different setting. And I had to understand that the unhoused population is not homogenous. Homelessness falls on a spectrum, and the impact or the complex trauma that students have as a result of grappling with homelessness manifests itself in a lot of different ways. So being able to figure out how to navigate and build on the resilience that is intrinsic in this population of students and connect that to their ability to achieve goals over time, typically a longer amount of time than than the traditional path, but ultimately capable to accomplish goals over time was one of the things I was proudest of at that time. And then I'm a data nerd. And I realized that there was a need for us to be able to tell not just a qualitative story about the outcomes that we were receiving, but a quantitative one as well. So my role transitioned to program evaluation, where I launched a 4-year longitudinal study to help us look into the social emotional learning of homeless youth. That is kind of where my work served me up into in 2020, when, of course, everything changed with the pandemic. School closed down on Friday, March 13th. And that was at a time when our leadership was transitioning. And I just basically said, I'm here, put me wherever I can be of use. And the place that I could be of best use right now is to take my evaluation skills and merge that together with some operations expertise to really help make sure that we're optimizing our systems, not just for student outcomes or success anymore. At this point, a lot of my job is about keeping people safe, keeping COVID from, being an outbreak in our community, making thoughtful decisions about when it will be safe to reopen school, and also make sure that we're continuing to provide the flow of resources and academic and social emotional learning supports that our students and families need while they are participating in distance learning. So it's a huge, huge job, but one
Yeah.
I'm incredibly grateful to have, not only because it's so rewarding and fulfilling. I've learned a lot. All of the trainings that you listed in my bio have been trainings, except for my coach certification. They've been trainings that I've been able to pursue through professional development working at Monarch. They've made me who I am. And that position at Monarch also has really been a catalyst for my success and my security as a creative entrepreneur. So having that job really satisfies my need to have 3 things going on at once, which I always do, and to be able to taste every chocolate in the box in terms of how I spend my time and make my money. And that's why I call myself a creative entreprofessional a lot, because I'm a creative and I'm an entrepreneur, but Monarch really anchors me in that professional piece. All the more exciting that I've been able to do all of that and still elevate up into the executive realm after 15 years of working in public education. So I'm very proud of the work I do at Monarch, and I hope Monarch is proud of the leader that they have made me, because they have definitely made me the professional that I am.
It sounds like they are, if they're, promoting you to vice president. I mean, that's proof right there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'll just touch on one more thing real quick. Last month, one of my guests was Mickey Vale, who runs Soul Kiss Theater, and I know that you are in her workshop, her playwriting workshop, and I believe you're presenting your play tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So what comes under that creative title is the fact that I'm an author and a storyteller, and I'm newly promoted myself to the world of playwright thanks to Soul Kiss Theater. And so tomorrow evening, Soul Kiss Theater is having their first event. Myself and 5 other new playwrights are going to be presenting our 10-minute plays that are going to be read by professional actors.
Ooh,
And
fun!
my play is called No Easy Exits. And I am not going to tell you what that means or is about because I really would love it if anyone that's watching or anyone I'm looking at right now would come and support this amazing work. Soul Kiss, I have a long history that go way back with Soul Kiss, back when they were, providing safe spaces for the Black lesbian community to come together and socialize, club nights, all kinds of things they were doing. It went away for a little while. And I'm so excited that they've decided not just to bring it back, but to kind of bring it back in a way that grew up with us. Like, well, I'm not really trying to be out in the club so much anymore,
Right.
but I'm trying to do some other things. And so this new iteration of Soul Kiss, which is focused on theater and empowering Black women's creative expression, is just like, bing, it was worth the wait for you to go away and come back like this. I really think people are going to be impressed with the work that they see from the playwrights tomorrow night. And I'm really excited to see where Soul Kiss goes from here, because if we can be this amazing without even being able to leave our houses and come together, just imagine what it's going to be like when we can all get into a black box theater together and really feel that vibe and that energy and that connection again. I think it's going to be marvelous. And I think that you're going to enjoy No Easy Exits and all of the other plays if you check it out tomorrow night.
Right on. I smell world domination from you for sure.
I'm a master manifester. I try not to let it go to waste.
There is a question in the chat asking how they can see the play. So if you can drop a link in there, or again, I'll do it on Facebook afterwards.
Yes. Which chat? Private or Twitch?
Twitch.
Twitch. All right. So I'm going to drop a few links in here if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I'm going to drop Soul Kiss Theater. Oh, go ahead. You don't have to hear me talk this out.
All right. So, Jules, let's talk to you now. So talk to us about how your year so far has been and what led to your choice to quit your day job, so to speak, and pursue music full time in the middle of a pandemic.
I know. Yeah, that's what everyone says. Questionable. So the year, yeah. I mean, I am a very goal-oriented person. I don't have much of a my wife, this really bothers my wife, but I don't have much of like an ability to visualize my future. I can't like look to the future and think I would like to be here, but I kind of compensate for that lack of ability to envision my future by setting goals. And so I set really, I've learned about smart goal setting and how it has to be, realistic and time based. And so I set these goals like I want to play 50 gigs in the year 2020 or whatever it is. And I set these like numerical, measurable goals. And I am laughing about my goals. They're funny now. But yeah, this year has been really interesting for learning how to hold things loosely, like hold plans loosely, and to let go of any misconception that I know what's going to happen or I'm in control of anything. it's been good for me to learn those things. But yeah, so I had been playing a lot in the live music realm and doing very little recording. But wanted to kind of slowly expand how much recording I was doing. But I was playing live enough that I thought almost I could quit my job, and I could do music full time. And I started thinking about it, and I just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the right time to do that. And I kept saying, I'm going to know when it's the right time. I'm going to know when it's the right time. And I've been kind of thinking that for a year and a half before I made the decision to do it. So it took me a while to kind of come around, and I'm cautious a little bit in terms of not wanting to just jump into the deep end and see if I can make enough money to survive. It seemed like crazy. So, I mean, I would have been okay, but I'm just too cautious for that. So I waited and I waited and I waited, and it kind of came to a point I was working at the Naval Hospital in San Diego in Balboa Park, and it's a really interesting. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe I don't believe the U.S. is hands down the best country in the world, and I just don't believe in nationalism and patriotism in that way. And so it was a really interesting job for the last 4 years to be surrounded by people that have dedicated their lives to that sort of mentality. And I realized in that job that a lot of people just want to help people. And the way that they know how to do it is by serving in the military. And that I got to see the heart behind that. And it was really cool. But it was also a lot of cognitive dissonance for me. All of the patients that I was seeing were severely injured. So polytrauma and amputation for the most part, and it was heartbreaking. It's like it took an emotional toll, and it took this mental gymnastics to be okay with the things that got them to where they are, and it was hard. And all that, I still couldn't quit. And things kind of came to a point where my contract was being renegotiated, and I could have stayed on part time. And I realized that was the time. It felt like that. I know it. That this is the time. It's time for me to move on. It's time for me to actually pursue music, and I can't describe it other than I just knew it was the right time. And I was thinking about doing that for so long, and it kind of came to happen in August. So as the pandemic is starting to take hold, I was like, am I really going to quit my job right now? And I held on for a few more months. I had thought the right time was April. And I held on for a few months because I had friends that, the unemployment stuff hadn't kicked in yet. And I had so many creative friends that were struggling. And I thought, if I have the opportunity to make money and help other people, if I can, pass some of that along, and other people don't have that opportunity right now, I have to keep it. It just doesn't make sense. So I stayed for a few more months and tried to do that. And then it just became the time. It was the time for me to move. So I quit that job, and I started putting more energy and intention into developing my remote recording business and recording more in general. I also started teaching music lessons, which is a thing. It's a whole imposter syndrome battle to teach lessons at something that I'm mostly self-taught. Drums, I've taken, drums is it's my instrument. That's what I play the most, but I've taken more lessons and studied more in depth in drums. But teaching guitar lessons and piano lessons and all those things that I don't feel like are my first instrument. Even teaching drums is terrifying, but I'm teaching at a really cool school, San Pasquale in Escondido, or I guess Deep Escondido. I'm not really sure what that area is called, but nestled into an orange grove. It's a residential school for kids in the foster system. And they're really incredible students. KishaLynn, you were talking about the natural resilience in your students. And I see the same. That really resonates in my students. Almost none of them, at least the ones that have shared with me, have had a really easy path and a childhood that I think a lot of us wish we could give to kids. I don't think any of my students that I work with have had that childhood that's easy and carefree, and they get to play and do kid things. I think almost all of my students have had to grow up too fast. And they're really incredible incredibly mature and also wise and share a lot. I learn a lot from them, and vulnerable. And I'm amazed by how they can still share their songwriting and their poetry and their spoken word with me, because I think difficult situations have a tendency for me to close me down, and I don't want to share anything. I would rather keep to myself. So I'm really amazed by the student sharing with me, and that helps me blow through the imposter syndrome that I feel teaching lessons. So it's been fun.
Do you teach remotely, or do you go?
It's all on Zoom right now. So it was supposed to be in person, and I started that in the first week of March was my first week. So I went up for 2 weeks, and then they closed campus, and I haven't been up since. So I've been doing all Zoom lessons, and it's fun, but boy, can that be challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
To do, I can't see where your hand is on the guitar, so it's hard to know what's going on. But it's been really fun. It's good for me to figure all that out too, and communication strategies, and morphing to whatever someone needs in terms of strategy of how.
Yeah. I've had other educators on the show, and they all talk about how, teaching on Zoom opens up a whole new sociology to teaching, right? And how to deal with it, and whether kids want to be on camera or not, and maybe not for you specifically, but other kids. So it's super interesting. I'm glad that you have that opportunity to do that.
I wouldn't be able to do it if there weren't a facilitator up there. So I'm relying on someone at the school to be able to set up an iPad and get them, get the students in front of it and all that stuff. So it's I'm really grateful that the resources are there, and that there are people that are willing to help facilitate the program. And it really is, it's their music program, but it's also in a lot of ways, I'm not a music therapist. I really respect music therapy and music therapists, and I'm not trained as one. I didn't go to school for that. But there are some aspects that overlap with music therapy for some of these students. And I really do feel strongly that it's important. And music is so helpful to process and to express what is difficult to express otherwise, and work through some difficult stuff. So it's been cool that the school values it in that way and is able to help it keep going through all this, when a lot of other resources are just harder to accomplish right now.
Yeah. So tell me this: do you consider yourself an activist or an advocate, or somewhere in between, or both? What are the causes that matter to you?
That is it's really interesting, KishaLynn, when you said I have always been more comfortable advocating than being an activist. That I was like, oh wow, I never thought about the difference. In advocating in a one-on-one capacity is something that I have always loved doing, and that's like that lights me up, and that I think it feels like an immediate impact when you can advocate for one person to get what they need, or in a more one-on-one sort of setting. And activism is a whole other thing. It is like a whole other mindset and a whole other ball of wax. This year, I think my opinion on my place in the world and how to best use my privilege and the resources that I have and all that, I think this year has turned a lot of people towards activism, and to realizing that if any of us have privilege or power, we can do two things and hardly anything else. We can either help people that don't have that privilege and power, or we can strengthen the systems that take privilege and power away from people. And it's hard. There's almost nothing in the middle. And so I think this year has kind of woken me up to that reality that if I cruise on privilege and power that I have, or tell myself that I don't have it, or, it was very easy for me, to be totally honest and embarrassingly honest, to think like, oh, I'm gay. I understand oppression. I look like this. People look at me in public. I understand oppression. And to at least feel like I could relate to some of the struggles that Black people were telling me or expressing that they were having. And I quickly realized how silly that is. I have white skin, and yes, I'm gay. And yes, there are things that have happened and people have said and all those things that don't happen to straight people, but there are a lot of things that don't happen to me because I'm white, and I will never get discriminated against because of the color of my skin. And that has been it's been a long process to keep understanding the new ways that I have, or the many, many ways that I've shirked the privilege that I have or the responsibility that I have to do something with that. So I think this year I was laughing because the more I read, the more I started how maybe this is a science thing, but reading a paper, reading like a research paper, you're like, wonder how they came up with that. And you look at the reference that they cited, and you're like, okay. You look up that paper, and you're like, I wonder why they thought that. And you look up that paper. It's just it's like watching videos on YouTube. You don't know how you ended up where you got to. But as I was reading more, kind of starting in May and June, I got more and more. It was like, oh my gosh, this is how people get radicalized. I love this. I feel like I'm being radicalized, and this is great. So it's been a really interesting journey, and I never, ever would have called myself an activist for anything. But I think this year it's very hard not to use my power and privilege and the capacity that I have to learn and the capacity that I have to speak up, and to do what I can physically with my body and with my resources and all that. So this year has turned me into an activist. How about that? I could have just said that phrase.
No, I love the whole logical way you sort of told your story there. I think that's really true of a lot of people, especially this year. Obviously, it's been going on for a long, long time, and a lot of us are just, like you said, kind of opening up to it. But I think it can only the power is in the people, right? So we have to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're almost up with our hours. So before I let you go, I just want to ask one other thing. Since I know all three of you have really great and supportive partners, I wanted to see if you wanted to give them a shout out, and then also let us know what's next for you. Why don't we start with you, Jules?
Yes, I would love to shout out my wife, Kaylee. Kaylee is a business owner. She owns Send Fitness. If you can imagine owning a gym this year, it's been quite a challenge to figure out new ways to adapt and figure that out. So Kaylee's done an amazing job, and she's always been so supportive, beyond supportive. She encourages me to follow my passion, my dreams, even when I get scared. So yeah, she is awesome. My biggest support. And then what's next for me? I've been slowly building the recording side of my music career, which is awesome, especially right now, because you can do it remotely and you can do it without seeing another person or exposing anyone to any sort of risk. So that's been amazing. And collaborating in that way with other artists in the San Diego community and outside of the San Diego community has been really, really fun for me. So, and I have a studio. I'm lucky to have a little space that's where I'm sitting right now. But a little space where I can record my drums and send those tracks to people. So that's been awesome. And what's next is building that more.
All right. Thank you. KishaLynn, how about you?
I am absolutely going to take the opportunity to shout out my amazing wife, Shelly. I am incredibly proud of Shelly. It's been a difficult year, and in the past couple of weeks, she has leveraged an unfortunate furlough situation from her job into transitioning and going back to school. She got accepted to Johnson & Wales University to complete her bachelor's degree, and I'm really excited about that. She is definitely the backbone to my whole creative entrepreneur existence. And so, Shelly, if and when you watch this, you know already that I love you more than yesterday, but not as much as I'll love you tomorrow. And then what's next? I'm glad that you asked because I did just launch a new business partnership, the Black Leadership and Abundance Center, aka Black. Black is a partnership with a friend and fellow coach of mine named Kamisha Reese. And what we have just decided to do is to combine our coaching and our manifesting and our healing powers and our training powers to be on a mission to use healing practices to help develop leaders, specifically Black leaders, but leaders, and cultivate an abundance mindset amongst Black people and under other people of color in particular. So Black's vision is to educate, advocate, and facilitate experiences and dialogues that are going to remove the barriers to Black people being leaders and ascending to leadership roles in workplaces and in communities. But also we're aiming to bring healing and teaching to the community so that we are learning together how to be prosperous in a holistic way and to make positive contributions to society. So www.black.life is the website there. And if any of that sounds like something that you want or need or know someone who wants or needs to be a part of it, call us up, and we have a lot of different ways in which we intend to expand our impact and our work. But I'm really excited to be kind of bringing all the pieces of myself together under the umbrella of this new initiative that I think is on point, a great brand, and really a great mission that I haven't really seen anywhere out there that comes together in this way, led by two dynamic Black women such as myself and Cam. So check that out. It's by us, but it really is for everyone. And so Black is where it's at, or what's next for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That was one piece I did leave out of your bio, but I did know about it. So good luck with that in the future. Way to go.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, Cathryn.
Well, my amazing husband of 12 years, John Edwards of John Edwards Live Sound Support. He's a workaholic. He would work, 14-hour days, and that was where he was happiest. So this has been a really, really hard time for him, besides being away from anyone he knows and stuck out here in the middle of the desert with my recently widowed mother and I, who are a little crazy. So the poor man has been just really amazing. He's been the backbone for both my mom and I, and always, like you say, the backbone to my creative outlets and just my best friend. So love him. Can't wait till he gets to go back to work again. And then what's next is just going to continue trying to connect people, via the radio show and the web show. SoundCloud, Listen Local Radio is there with podcasts, a monthly show. And then on YouTube, you can find us at Half Fast TV or Listen Local Radio. And those are just Zoom interviews with different folks. And every Sunday we get together for a song circle or a creative circle. And we get together on Zoom at 4:00 on Sundays, and just to hang out for some company. And going to continue trying to make funny loop shows to make people laugh. And I think just yesterday we decided that Calamity was going to start hosting a talk show as well. So we'll see. But just trying to stay creative and stay happy, and just try to spread the word that evolution is here and things are changing and it's going to be a lot better.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here, for being my guests. I hope everybody watching really enjoyed the conversation. Just a quick note, I'm going to take December off, but I will be back in January 21st. A couple of my guests will be Charlita Shelton and Delia Arancibia. And the third guest is still to be named. So please tune in then. And thanks again for watching. Bye.
Thank you, Lizzie. Bye. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lizzie. Thank
Thank
you.
you.